Welcome back. Kody Blois is a Nova Scotia Liberal Member of Parliament and Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, and he was in China for the recent trade discussions. Welcome.
Hi, Todd. Thanks
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Before we get into discussions about China, I have to talk to you about what's making news today, and that is sources telling CTV News that the Prime Minister is considering sending some troops, perhaps into Greenland for exercises as part of the European countries that are doing the same. Can you confirm that? What can you tell us about it?
What I would say, I mean, it's a question for the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister's been very clear that the future for Greenland is for Greenlanders themselves and the Kingdom of Denmark to make those decisions. He's been very clear about that. He's also been clear about the work that we're doing to protect our own sovereignty and the build-up of the Canadian Armed Forces to protect the North. Any question around what Canada may do in relation to the point you just raised is frankly for Minister McGuinty and the Prime Minister, so I have nothing further to add than what the Prime Minister said thus far.
Okay. Being on the East Coast and probably closest to Greenland and our naval service, obviously that's something that we'll have to keep a close eye on. Okay, let's talk about China. You were involved in those discussions. Tariff reductions, notably for this side of the country on crab and lobster, takes the tariff off. It's for 1 year.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So it's close to $1 billion in product, and any maritimer watching at home tonight knows that the seafood industry, our fishing industry, is absolutely crucial to Atlantic Canada. To put it into comparison, in Nova Scotia, almost $500 million a year last year alone in terms of lobster exports to China. Crab, again, balance between Atlantic and BC coast, but this is extremely important. There's more work to be done on this file, Todd. This is an important start. We know there are other tariff products, halibut, clams, others that we have to continue to engage with the Chinese, but this is a really important start, and it's almost $1 billion worth of seafood explicitly to the Chinese market every year. That is no tariffs whatsoever, and it's important in consideration of particularly American producers that are shipping to China. We now have a better tariff rate access into the Chinese market than the Americans, and very comparable to Australia and Vietnam.
And there's some other areas like pork, notably, some beef products that still...
So on beef, the Chinese have signaled that we should expect that market access will come back shortly. We'll see in terms of the timeline, but those are conversations we're engaging. Pet food, many Canadians wouldn't know that a few years ago we used to ship almost $1 billion worth of pet food. Those are extremely important. Pork, we're continuing to engage on. And just on canola for a moment, $5 billion worth of Canadian exports to China every single year. This is a significant win for the canola sector. It matters across the country, obviously most importantly in Western Canada, but also Ontario has a number of canola producers as well. We think this is extremely important back.
Ontario mostly focused on the auto sector, though. They're not happy about these $49,000 EVs that are coming in. Is China going to invest in Canada? Will there be money put in? Will there be jobs in the EV sector?
A couple things for your listeners at home to understand. This is approximately 3% of the overall Canadian auto sales in the country, that being the 49,000.
But much more when you look at EVs, right? It's about 37% of EVs.
At the end of the day, we think that this is an opportunity to build out the EV segment that has frankly been a little bit stagnant in the North American context. And in terms of why this is happening, first thing I think that's extremely important, we know that it's a delicate moment right now for the auto sector, particularly with the conversations around continental free trade. Every Canadian in this country, any 10-year-old kid with a calculator at home, Todd, will be able to tell you exactly how many Chinese vehicles at the upper limit will be allowed into the country over the next number of years. We thought certainty at this moment is extremely important. And we also agree with Premier Ford about the need for investment. You'll remember about a week ago, Premier Ford said, well, we want to see Chinese investment so that we can build out Canadian auto workers, steel. You don't get to investment if you don't have some market penetration. So this is a very controlled, staged approach in terms of EVs coming into the country. On your question of investment, I was in China. I actually had conversations with 2 different Chinese EV automakers, both of whom expressed real interest in coming to Canada. We have to obviously prove that work as a government of Canada. We're willing to engage with the government of Ontario in this question, but make no mistake, the Chinese EV sector is willing to go into a joint partnership, majority Canadian owned, building into the supply chain. We think this is extremely important, and it's part of how we get to that path.
What about data security? People are worried these Chinese cars are going going to show up, that they're going to track individuals, and that there will be a security issue with that. Was that broached at all?
Well, yeah, and I would point to BlackBerry and a company called QNX, which is doing work actually in other jurisdictions. Canada is not the first jurisdiction to contemplate the question about data security and protecting the information in what is smart cars from any jurisdiction that's obviously importing. Where is that data protected? That's something the government is confident that we can be able to control. And QNX and BlackBerry already do work with what I would call smart cars around the world with that software. So we're confident, Todd, that this can be protected, that Canadians can ensure their data is safe, and that there is no national security.
You've been to China a few times now. Just before the election, Mr. Carney called China our greatest security threat. We had a full inquiry into foreign interference. China played a big role into that. Is that all done now, or are we all?
No, the Prime Minister's been very clear. I mean, and look, we're in a heck of a world. You just talked off the top about Greenland and some of the uncertainties geopolitically. The government was elected on a mandate to build out relationships economically around the world, to make sure that we have more economic resiliency in our trade. China is but one of the many countries that we're engaging with. The Prime Minister was in Qatar, obviously today into yesterday. We've done work in the UAE. We have a trade agreement with Indonesia and Thailand. So this is part of a broader strategy that we're doing. But the Prime Minister has also been very clear that there'll be guardrails with the Chinese government where we don't agree, where we're not going to collaborate. Those are in some of the areas that you mentioned. But I think it's important to stress to Canadians at home, if you don't actually have a political relationship to get to the table, we haven't had dialogue in 8 to 9 years where we can have both frank conversations where we may disagree. But the Prime Minister also feels that we shouldn't step away from the areas where we can cooperate on trade, on agriculture, energy, notwithstanding there's going to be areas where clearly we're not going to cooperate.
And we're going to have to leave it there. Kody Blois, appreciate you coming in. The jet lag must be settled in pretty hard right now, so we'll let you go and get over that. Thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it. We'll take a time out. We got a lot more of your local show after this.